one of the things that I have been practicing with that awareness of everything's happening for me, this goes simultaneous with it. And I live by this. I mean, I believe it like I believe this is my lip gloss, like, no, that's actually a banana. It's like, no, this is lip gloss, right? That knowingness. You cannot tell me this is a banana. When you have that knowingness around certain beliefs, it becomes your reality. And so my knowingness is that there are absolutely no mistakes in my life, none. And every single thing is the gift, everything. So,
I just got goosebumps.
yeah, I mean, it's life changing when you know that to be absolute truth. And it's a real challenging belief to hold because, and trust me, if you start holding this more and more.
The guest in front of you may look very familiar because she has a lot of followers and has done about 1,200 videos on YouTube, reaching over 3 million people. My guest today is Lorie Ladd, who came into this incarnation awake with clear cognizance, which means she has clear knowing, and she is also a channel. And unlike the traditional way that I conduct interviews on this channel, today, Lorie and I have decided that as part of Waking Up the Collective, we are going to have a collaborative conversation. So let's see where spirit takes this. So Lorie, welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you. I got goosebumps when you were saying that.
Love it.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
that's how it works. And we are so similar. First of all, we're two Lories, both have YouTube channels, both focused on waking up the collective. Mine is called Waking You Up to the Power of Your Soul. Yours is called Evolution in Human Consciousness. So let's just dive in deep. What do you think consciousness is? And why are we evolving it right now?
I love it. I just love where we are as a human collective. So consciousness to me is energy. It's just simply energy. It's awareness. So it's awareness, which is energy, and um, it's um, it's such a hard concept to try to like articulate. It's almost like it's an experience or a being state. So it's consciousness is really difficult to label with our minds and our human
Just don't have the human
constructs.
words.
Yeah, it's like we were saying earlier. It's like, how do you describe the everything, the everything that is, was, will be, that has no barriers and has no, you can't describe it. There's no words to describe that state that you've been in and other people have found themselves in, which is, when you were describing it earlier, I'm sure you've described it to your audience, but when you were describing it earlier, it reminded me of, I did a QHHT back in
Oh,
2014.
cool. For
Yeah, it
people who
was,
don't know, past life regression, right?
yeah, yeah. And it takes you like into, it's still what Dolores Cannon started.
Yes.
Yeah, and so it takes you, well, it takes you into past lives, and then it takes you into your like real deep unconscious, or like your soul, the spirit that's guiding you, that kind of comes online, and she starts talking to that. But anyway, the point was is that when I first went into the hypnosis state, I was with I was experiencing that energy of just God, source, everything that it was like, it was exactly what you were describing, where it's like there's no, and I just sat there. She let me sit in it for like 30, 35, 40 minutes. I just sat, how you could just sit in it and bask.
Yes.
It's
It's
like,
all the time spent there is always too short.
yeah, and it goes like
Always.
this.
Yes.
Yeah, there's no time, right? So you
Right.
feel like you've been there for 1 second and it's been 45 minutes. You're like,
Right. Right.
it's,
And it doesn't have any humanness, which I think is why it's so difficult to explain, which is a deviation from what I do on this channel, where I talk to people who've had near-death experiences and they see passed away grandmother, they see an angel, they see God or Jesus. But in this place, which is almost like the next level realm There's nothing outside of it. And it's everything. It's infinite, but it doesn't have any component that feels or you can describe as human, which is then the very difficult task of trying to help people understand what we're talking about. But we know it's changing. So you want to speak a little bit to what you think is happening with these changes that are coming in?
Yeah. So, I just did a video this morning or a reel on Instagram and Facebook this afternoon actually around this because what's happening to the human collective, so every little human body that's on the planet right now is makes up the human collective, which I always like to describe as like a bubble, like a big bubble, right? That every human is in this like bubble, and then the bubble holds a frequency. So every human body holds a frequency, and then the entire bubble holds a frequency. So there's almost two different types of frequencies that we experience throughout the day. We experience our own inner world and our own outer world, like our own vibrational frequency throughout the day, which comes and goes, ins and out, up and down, which is how you feel, how you think, how you be. That equals your frequency, the vibration in your body, and it's constantly changing. It's increasing. And then there's the human collective, the big bubble that is also shifting and changing. Changing, it's meaning it's increasing in frequency, and the body is increasing in frequency, which increases our awareness, or it's our consciousness that starts to um, become almost more embodied. Like we start to recognize more and more, just slowly but surely, very slowly, like water drops on a sink. We start recognizing who we are. We start waking up to who we actually are in the physical realm. Like, holy cow, wait a second. I am both this human body and this persona called Lorie, which is beautiful. That's why we're here. But then I also know I'm not that. So then what am I? Right? Like I know I'm something else. And then it's just this game of integrating or embodying more of that. That's what's coming online for us. Is who we actually are, which happens when the light increases, right? So when you turn the light on in the room, which is frequency in the body, you start looking around saying, oh my God, you start becoming the observer. You're like, oh, look at that thought. Look at that emotion. Look, you start recognizing all this stuff. And then the more you recognize, the more you're like, well, this isn't me. This is the character. Holy cow, wait a second. And so it's this slow process of awakening, which is the evolution in human consciousness. And just to make it a little more complicated but simple, we actually aren't awakening to anything, right? Like our true nature is this God aspect, or this spirit aspect in us that connects us to that source of everything. Um, and so it's like, when the planet increases in frequency, the body increases in frequency, the lights turn on in the room, we start looking around, and then it's like this natural progression of like, holy cow, what am I doing here? And who am I? And what is this? But that process, that journey that so many of us are in right now, that squeezing of awakening and awareness, um, can be a roller coaster ride.
Oh my
Like,
gosh, for sure. You know what you reminded me of, because you said how it happens so slowly and gradually. I think there's a lot of people who are watching right now who may not be at that place where they're seeing behind the curtain and they're connecting to I'm this more, but they're seeing little breadcrumbs. They're seeing gifts from the universe like 1111. They're seeing synchronicities. They're seeing signs. And I think that that is the gradual process that began many years ago that started just kind of chipping away at that. I'll call it the veil, that
mhm,
veil of forgetfulness of that we were this. And it
mhm,
starts chipping away. And the more it chips away, it starts kind of raining on it and just thinning it, almost melting it, so that we can get to that point where you're talking about, where we understand that we are that and we are this. Do you think we're going to get to a point in maybe in our lifetime where it's thin enough that we're always connected to it and we're not having the avatar part of it?
I don't know. I love how you brought up like you know how like when you go through something really like when you it's like you forget what it's like to be in a different grade in school. You're like, "Oh, you're in 12th grade and and I'm not saying this in terms of hierarchy, right? I'm
Yeah, so
just
not good, better, best.
no, just like different, right? You're like, I remember I was learning algebra and now I know how to do all kinds of like intense math. You kind of forget that you actually had to learn 8 + 8 = 16. You kind of forget the beginning stages of that process of awakening. And so it's really important, I think, that you bring us to that place of like, no, in the beginning, it's like you see these signs, you see synchronicities, you think about somebody and then they call.
Yeah.
You know, you start to listen a little bit more to the thoughts and you're like, holy cow, I cannot believe how loud my thoughts are. And then you start realizing, oh my God, I'm judging so loudly. I judge myself every day. Oh my gosh, I have all these different emotions. That's the hard part of waking up is that the waking up process, and I don't like you to even use that word, but the process of evolution, evolving, is that you start to feel and hear so much in your inner world. You're like, something is very wrong with me. There is something, there's something wrong. Because you're starting to recognize more and more different emotional states. You start feeling different people's, you're like, no, I don't want to be around that person anymore. And then it's like, wait, there must be something wrong with me. This is my mom. I should want to be, or this is my best friend. Like, but it's energy, and so you're coming online more, your body's
Yeah.
increasing in frequency, so it's like, oh my God, I don't want to do this, and then you're like, oh my God, I have to follow this, I have to follow that no, or I have to follow that yes. And so there's 1,000 different little hints of this journey that we continue to be on. And it's never ending and constantly changing. It changes all the time. But I don't know if we will ever, in our lifetime, I don't know if we'll ever kind of, my goal is to do that, that's really my goal, is to be able to be connected to both that essence of spirit, soul, source, God, whatever you want to call it, right? That's in the body and also all around. So it's embodied. So that's you, but you're all playing that role. You're playing the character. And I think when if you have I have that conscious awareness and choice that that's what I'm kind of doing every day in a way. So everything that happens to me happens for me. Everything that's
I love that you
happening.
said that. Thank you. And I get such
Yeah.
a powerful message. I hope everybody just heard that. Say it again.
Everything happens for me.
When
Yeah.
you can get to that point, I feel it's like a release and a freedom like nothing else. It's really, 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 really tough to get to that place. And it's not always practical to stay there, but you keep coming back to it. You keep practicing it. And then everything shifts. It's a massive shift when that happens. Don't you agree?
100%. And you know what? One of the things that I have been practicing with that awareness of everything's happening for me, this goes simultaneous with it. And I live by this. I mean, I believe it like I believe this is my lip gloss, like, no, that's actually a banana. It's like, no, this is lip gloss, right? That knowingness. You cannot tell me this is a banana. When you have that knowingness around certain beliefs, it becomes your reality. And so my knowingness is that there are absolutely no mistakes in my life, none. And every single thing is the gift, everything. So,
I just got goosebumps.
yeah, I mean, it's life changing when you know that to be absolute truth. And it's a real challenging belief to hold because and trust me, if you start holding this more and more, you will find yourself having these experiences where you're like, well, why? You'll be challenged with that. Why me? Why is this happening? Then you have to go back to, wait, no, 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 no. There are absolutely with beyond a shadow of a doubt, no mistakes in your life. There are none.
And
Nothing.
then when you get to that point, then fortunately or unfortunately, you have to say to other people when they do things to you, there's nothing to forgive. That's a real mind twist.
Yeah, like it's all a gift. And how to see it as a gift and also honoring ourselves with all the different emotions around it. Like you don't have to like it. Liking it doesn't mean that it's still not designed to be here. You get to you can unlike what you're going through. Go ahead. But when you realize that just because you don't like something doesn't mean that it's absolutely perfectly designed to be there. There's a freedom, there's an expansion and openness. It's like because then you're simultaneously giving yourself permission to have the human experience of it. Like if you have a death in the family, it's like, of course you're going to be upset or angry or sad or duh, like welcome to the human. But if you also simultaneously hold that it's absolutely perfect, you can hold both of those. You will start living life, like you said, in such a way you'll feel more of a freedom. Like life's not out to get you. It's not out to get you. Um, I mean, I've been living this way for a while now, and whether I'm right or wrong doesn't matter because I feel more free in my life. So it's like, well, how do you know for sure it's all for your? I don't. I'll never know until I'm out of this human experience, but I'm sure as heck gonna believe it because it makes life so much more less suffering, right? Because
Yeah,
suffering is not wanting to be in what you're in.
true. Absolutely truth. All right, I'm going to take this in a direction. I didn't ask you this in advance, so I don't even know if you have connected to this at all, but are you aware of the telepathy tapes?
Okay, so no, yes, I'm aware of them and I've never listened yet, but I can't tell you the amount of people that have sent it to me. And I was just last weekend in Dublin, Ireland, doing an event, and they were talking to me about it, and I was like, "All right, tell me a little bit more um, about what these are." And they started to tell me, and I was like,
Exactly. I'm mind blown by this. Like we're already in this space, right? We're already having conversations like this on a daily, weekly basis with other people, with ourselves, with, you're at this event and you have these like-minded people who are there talking about this. But I've got to tell you, like this, I think this is one of the biggest things to happen to our collective in a long time. I'm calling this the 4-minute mile of consciousness. And what I mean
mm,
by that is for a long time, humanly, we did not think it was possible to run a mile in 4 minutes. And when it happened, 20 other people did it in that same year. So now that there's a spotlight of efficacy and evidence around telepathy for these autistic or non-speaking humans on the planet, and they're not just having isolated experiences, their families and the ripple effect of friends of their families coming to the house are all witnessing it. And the accuracy rates are like 100% as blinded as you can get these studies, which are not scientific because you can't fully blind them. But we've also discovered that they're having conversations with others on this place called the Hill, which means they're gathering in a thought place. And one of the kids who is able to type and communicate said that there were thousands there having experiences, and each one has a role. Like, I'm a teacher of this history. I'm a teacher of this. These are beings that we have looked at as being non-communicative, therefore non-intelligent, who are actually brilliantly intelligent, emotionally intelligent, with almost an incapability of lying, who are communicating across distance and time, which is quantum physics, right? And they are telepathically communicating, and they're telling us, hey, guess what? Your thoughts actually count. And your thoughts not only count energetically in what you're doing and how it's bringing things to you, but now other people are going to be privy to them. So you better start to clean them up, which is my download that I got in 2008 or 09. And it was this challenge that I was shown called the Superpower Challenge, which was to take a box of Tic Tacs and carry them around with you. And then notice throughout the day your thoughts. And every time you had a bad thought, you would eat one
Oh
because
my
it would make
God.
you aware of your thoughts. And let's see, did you run out of them in the first hour? Did you make it to lunchtime? Did you have a couple left over at the end of your 5 o'clock day job? And it's just putting an awareness. But when I got that, I thought that people could just replace the thoughts and change them. But over time, I realized they couldn't. They had to actually change their perceptions in order to change their thoughts. And so in the winter solstice of 2020, I got this download that eventually became the first 63 videos on my channel called Uncover Your Soul's Purpose. And the purpose of those videos were actually to help people change their perceptions to get to the point in like 40 videos in where they could actually start to address how to change their thoughts because they realized, oh, I planned this. I have all these people helping me. I have these chakra systems. I have these energies that affect me. And there are lots of the things that I can do and adjust that I need to work on first. But eventually, we're going to be very motivated to change our thoughts when other people are going to start being able to tap in and read them. Like this is a massive collective change. So I love I know you haven't read them, but you've heard enough now. Like, what do you think about this, Lorie?
Yeah, I love that. I mean, I think it's, yeah, I mean, when I realized what it was, I was like, well, it's the evolution in human consciousness. So I was shown a while back about around when I was bringing in my book, The Divine Design, I was shown how this is a little bit far out there, but just stay with me because it does
Okay.
connect to autistic children. So when you
Oh,
think about
cool.
many autistic children, um, they, okay, so when you come in as a consciousness or a spirit or a soul, whatever word you want to use, right? We're not the human body. We could kind of all agree that we're not actually, I mean, you do all the near death experience interviews. It's quite obvious that we're not a physical vessel.
Right. And I think a lot of people watching this conversation are going to be right there with us when you said
Yeah.
all.
Like that we can kind of all agree on. Like, okay, we're something else. Maybe we're a spirit that draw like whatever it is, but we're definitely not just this physical vessel because like you've seen in near death experiences, something is active out of the body. Okay, so we start there, right? So whatever that is that's active outside of the body has a consciousness to it. It has an awareness, it has a vibration, it has it's alive outside of physical form. Okay, I like to call that spirit. And then, so when spirit decides to incarnate into the body, because the body is so dense, just in terms of physics, you can't stick a huge amount of light into a physical vessel. It will burst it or it will burn up, right?
Yeah. And we know that from watching cancer cells being exploded with light.
What? What do you mean?
Yeah, they have there's all kinds of things where they're using light and frequency to manipulate cells or to change them. So yes, thank you. I mean, it's a perfect example.
Yeah. So when you think about that, we are consciousness or a light or a spirit or a soul, whatever you want to call it, we are something separate from body. And the physical body is very dense. So when we come in, there is what I like to call like a light quotient. It's a percentage of the light that we are. And the more light that you bring in, the more difficult it is to be in the body, but the more connected you are to who you are, right? You could also say
Yes.
that's the evolution in human consciousness is that we're starting to be able to increase the body's frequency, which then allows for us to become more of that light that we are. Well, coming back to autism and the telepathy tapes, what I was shown years ago with my book was that these kids, the kids that have autism and they're on the spectrum, they can't be in the body, they can't talk, or they're in the body and they're unable to function in this world because they came in with much more light on purpose.
Blowing my mind. I
Yeah.
haven't thought about this from this direction. This is why I love these conversations. Oh my God.
Yeah, they came in with more light, and so most people wouldn't have believed me in this 5 years ago, whatever. But now that the telepathy tapes are out, it's like, well, how else are they so connected? They brought in more of their light. They don't have a better, they're not more skilled. They're not more, they are more connected to who they are. So if you think about what you were saying, right, that eventually this is where we're going in our evolution, and that they're just showing us what we are all able to do. It's just a matter of being able to connect more and more to that which we are. Like, so the veil you're speaking of, right? It all wraps around each other. It's like they don't have a veil. Like, why do they not have a veil? Because they brought in so much light that the light disseminates the veil. So if you think about our evolution right now, what are we doing? We're starting to dissolve that veil, right? So that we can be who we naturally are in physical form, which they're doing. It's not, they don't have to practice it. They're not like, I've got to practice every day. It just is naturally what they do, because it's their divine connection to everything, right? Which is what we are, like like trudging through the mud to try to kind of remember and come back to. And it starts with, again, kind of like bringing it back to our conversation. It starts with like 11, 11, 12, 12. You know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
all,
it does.
we're not gifted necessarily with bringing in a huge amount of light and having the experience that these autistic children are having, but they also aren't experiencing, more of the human everyday life stuff. So, but they're showing us. I mean, I haven't watched the tapes, but what I heard is like, oh, they're showing us who we
They
are.
are. I love that you mentioned that without knowing the tapes, because there's one particular part of the telepathy tapes where there was a teacher who walked into the room to work with an autistic child for the first time and saw the light body of the autistic child floating above the body. And he communicated with her telepathically and said to her, "You're here to help me bring my ethereal body into
Oh,
my physical body." And she said, "How am I going to do that?" And he said, "Go get a bunch of tuning forks." And so she did. And she brought him in and she would tap him and he'd go, "Nope, not that one." Tap him, tap him. And then he'd go, that one's my soul." And then he would tap him and said, "Nope, not that one, not that one. Oh, that one's my body." You have to tap them together and it would bring his
oh,
body in. I know.
yeah, because I would imagine, sorry, I had to take my sweater off because I'm so hot. I would imagine that if you think about just everything in physics, right? Like you can literally break this down into it. Like think about like when you plug in when you plug in a light, right? A socket. What does it have to do? It has to be grounded in, right? They do whatever they do to ground the electrical current so that when you
Yeah.
plug it in, it doesn't
A
burst open.
grounding
And
wire.
yeah.
Exactly. Yes.
So it's the same thing with the human body. It's exactly the same thing. It is exactly the same thing. There's an electrical current that is the light body that has to be grounded down in. And if it's too high of a frequency, these kids are going to not be able to, they're either going to be kind of like what he's describing, right? Where
Yep.
you're not capable of being in the body. You're going to have a really difficult time being in the body. Um, or you're going to shut down when you're in the body, or you're going to have all kinds of physical ailments. You're not going to be able to talk. You're not going to be able to, like, all these things that they experience um, is a side effect at times of having too much light. And there's so many kids that are incarnating at this time that are being labeled all of these labels.
Yeah. And everybody thought, oh, it's because of the shots that they're given for immunizations when they're little. It's because of our food supply. It's the microplastics, is all of this. But what if it's the next step of evolution of our consciousness, so that the collective is now helping send another breadcrumb so we can recognize the light in that is the same light in us, to help us remember more? Like, what if that's part of the game to wake up and remember?
Totally, 100%. Like, I remember I did a video in 2020 with a woman about autism, and I was talking about this being one of the bigger reasons why there's so much autism is because of how much light these souls are bringing in. Um, and we were doing it during the COVID times, right? Because there was a lot of talk about the vaccines and et cetera. But I don't know which one's more of the cause. I'm sure there's all kinds of reasons, but that's a big piece. And these telepathy tapes are just such a freaking gift because yeah, it's
But we
just
weren't ready for them until now. I think they're coming in now. I'm going to give you a confirmation about that light part that you talked about. One of the things that I was shown many years ago on the other side is they showed me my soul and the amount of light that I brought into my human incarnation. And I've talked about this probably 30 times on my channel in different interviews. It is the equivalent of what would be my pinky fingernail. That's how much of my higher self, that's what I call it,
yes.
came into this. And they showed me that different people had different amounts in their body. When I'm gonna use an ascended master, like somebody like Jesus, I think he and all of those other ascended masters came in with a higher level of consciousness, which is why they were able to do some of the things that they were able to do. They were just simply more connected. And I do agree that that's so when you said that, it was such a confirmation also. It was like your confirmations confirm my confirmations, and the whole collective gets more information to just have like one more little breadcrumb or gold nugget that they can uncover and go, okay, now what do I do with this? Let me think about this for a little bit.
I freaking love this because that is such a big confirmation for me because when I brought in most of the information for my book, um
Channeled, right?
channeled, which
Yeah.
is, it wasn't researched. So anything channeled can always be really challenging to for me. I'll just speak for me. When I channel things, especially in my book, it was very difficult for me to stand on that mountaintop and and really believe firmly. I knew it was
Tell me
true
why. Tell me why.
because it was really new. It's very out there, like talking about light quotient and this is what you bring in. And it still can be challenging for me personally to talk about it, even though it's becoming more mainstream. I think just because it's a uh, it's not fully it's just a it's an I don't know how to it's just difficult for people to accept. And I think I deal with a lot of insecurity around my work, a lot of insecurity around showing up and speaking my truth.
I
um,
understand. I feel the same.
yeah, it's very, very difficult for me. And so this book was really challenging to sort of stand out and take my microphone and say, no, you got to listen to this.
And I think the part of the reason it's challenging for us specifically is because we have content that we are putting out on platforms and people have the ability to critique it. And they come in with their viewpoints, their belief systems. And when it doesn't match something, people can be pretty adamant. I'm going to use that word in the comments about what they share with us. And even though we understand it, sometimes it's so complex. The answer is not a simple response to a comment. It's so complex that it could take me 20 minutes to write a response that would really address what they're saying. And I just don't have the time to do that, nor do you. And so there's a frustration with sometimes talking about certain comments because we know when they're going to have more comments than others. And
Mhm.
then it just becomes this vast amount of work that you almost can't live up
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
meet others' expectations and help them understand something that we've spent years and years and years and iterations of ourself, like evolving iterations of ourselves. Don't you feel like you become a new person about it used to be
Hour.
like every five, yeah, you say hour now. It's used to like every month. I have so many conversations. I'm a different person every month. It's nuts.
It is wild. And I think when you do decide to have a platform and speak, you are saying, okay, I'm gonna, I'm gonna be a target for people's pain and people's suffering, which is basically what it is. And so it's just can be very difficult to for me, it's just trusting what I know to be truth and just freaking speaking it. I am always like, okay, how are people going to take this? What are people going to think? And it's like my greatest work is when I don't do that. When I just when I
Greatest
just
freedom too.
yeah, when I'm just shouting it out and I'm like, doesn't work, it doesn't matter, just speak it, just speak it, just speak it. Like, um,
Well, why do you feel compelled to share it? Because we come in here and we're doing something that most people aren't, that most people don't understand. This is not like a money-making thing, at least not on my channel yet. I spend way more doing this than I ever receive from it. So it becomes then a labor of love. So why are you doing it?
one, I knew from a very young age that this was exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I got the call when I was really young, like 13. I just knew I was here to help humanity in the evolution and consciousness. It just took me 25, 30 years to finally start doing it. So I know that it's a blueprint. I just, even if I don't like it, it's literally in my blood. It's like this is what you're doing. And so once I started doing it when I was 43 is when I started. I I know that no matter how challenging it can be, because it can be very challenging for me, because I am the subject. So um I whatever I experience is what I'm teaching. And so can become very challenging, but I wouldn't want to do anything else on the planet. It's like I want to be able to help people understand they're not crazy. There's nothing wrong with them. This is literally a natural physical evolution that you remember coming down and wanting to be a part of. You just completely forgot. Um, and it's very natural, but it's so just trying. It's like I just want to remind people of what they forgot.
You just got a dog unconditional love confirmation of what
I
you're doing.
know.
Did you see that happen? Right when you started saying that, I could see him down there.
Yeah, he came
They
over and jumped
know.
up. Yeah, right. Yeah, it's the confirmations are you know this, but anytime you get it, you feel insecure, you feel like what's the point? For me personally, this is what happens to me all the time. I'm like, what's the point? There's no point. What am I doing? And then I get this email like or a comment or a message of like, "Oh my God, you've changed my life. You've helped me so much." Um and it's like, okay, that's just like a little wink from the universe, like keep going,
Definitely.
keep going. But I do it so that because I want to remind people of what they're in, like what we're going through, what we're navigating, because we are in something. We are
We are
in,
definitely in something. So
yeah.
where do you think we're going from here? Like what's kind of the feeling that you get on a clear cognizance? Because that's what your clear is, which is clear knowing. What do you know right now? What do you know to be true right now?
I right now on April 2nd at whatever time it is, right?
2025, because these videos live in perpetuity.
Right. 2025 at 5 p.m. California time. Because everything changes so quick now. I know that we are our states of being, like how we be in the world, how we're being in the world, um, are going to continue to change. And people are going to continue to feel this shift or this change. More and more people are going to start to feel it. And there's layers or levels to it, right? Some people are just beginning. Some people have been in it for a while. Some people, are like, advanced in all of this and like just rock stars in the shifts and the changes. So what I would just, it's a shift. It's shifting and changing, which is the frequency in the body, but it shows as states of being, different ways of being, more awareness of you, your life, what you like, what you don't like, and that drives people crazy. But that's what we're in. And I think one last thing is that we will start, depending upon kind of what layer you're in and all of this, we're going to start simplifying our lives more and more. Um, and I think this is going to be like a 4 mile race like you're speaking of, because we're going to start watching people not have a choice but to simplify their lives because it's too complicated. The world's getting very, very loud and very distractive, and it's upsetting the nervous system now. And so if as people are like their nervous system, meaning like there's anxiety, there's anxiousness, there's restlessness, there's like, oof, we're not going to be able to kind of get away with it or push it aside anymore. We're going to have to kind of step into these new ways of being, which is simplicity, um, slowing down, more present. Um, yeah, it's going to be forced onto us with our nervous system.
And I actually think that AI is a part of that.
Yeah. You mean like a good part or a bad part or just
Good
like,
part, because there will be revolutions and revelations in the way that we do things and the things that we have to do. And
mm,
it will lighten the load in some ways and simplify things in other ways so that it will make more room for maybe that being present. That's, I think, one of the most difficult things that we don't have anymore. I mean, I guess everybody think back to like when you were a kid. You know, if you're around the same age that we are, you're a kid, you're running around all summer, and summer lasted a billion years.
I
But
know.
you could lay down in the field, you could take time to sit down and do all these things, and you didn't have to think about the time constraints. And now there's almost not a moment in your day when you're not under a time constraint and a busyness. And I feel like things like this, although it made our lives easier, it also made our lives infinitely more difficult because we have so much more to take care of. The more things you have and the more complex those things are, like it used to be, you would turn the TV on, and if you wanted to change the channel, you would stand up and you would walk to the TV and you would flip through the channel. And now, my mom, my poor mother, God bless her, my dad has such a complicated surround sound TV system, state of the art, that she can only turn it off. She said, if he dies, I can't even watch TV. I can't make coffee. I can't make anything for myself but heat water in the microwave because the stove is too complicated. The microwave is too complicated. The coffee maker is too complicated. We've made things so cool and advanced that it's almost added this complexity because the brain space it takes to learn. I have to get out a gosh darn manual every time I'm going to change my clock on my nightstand clock, because it's not as simple as pushing the time. There's like a whole bunch of steps to go to get to it. Like the complexity of what we have to deal with is almost overwhelming. And I do think that there will be things with AI that will simplify that, so we can kind of get back to the, I have time at night to go sit and look at the stars, maybe interrupted by a 50 billion more satellites than they were when I was a kid. But nonetheless, I can
Yeah.
have time to look at the stars.
I mean, I think you have a point with that. You know, it's funny when you're talking because it's like, I mean, that literally is the evolution in our consciousness is the more complex it gets, or the more we're aware of the complexity, I should say that. The more we're aware of the complexity, the more simple it becomes. But you have to first be aware of the complexity. Complexity meaning, oh my God, I've got to do all these things. I got to figure all these things out in my life. I've got to find my all my trauma and all my pain points, and I got to go. We do all of this really complicated stuff, which is extremely important in the process of awakening, because then you eventually find yourself saying, oh my God, none of that. I don't. I'm already perfect. Like, wait, and then like you start. There's this like shift out of all of that. Like, why are we making it so complicated? But it needs to be complicated. So it's the same thing with like, the technology. It's like, it's got to be complicated in order for us to realize how simple it can really be, like how easy this can be. Like, oh my God, it's so easy once you realize how to do it. Like, but I'm so sorry about the squeaky toy in the background.
You can't hear any of
Oh,
it.
okay, good. Yeah, so it's like the complexity almost is inevitable when you realize that it brings you into simplicity. Once you see it, once you know how to do it, you're like, oh, man, my life is so much simpler. I can just click this little button and I push this and I have everything I need on the TV screen and I can go to all these different, I mean, everything's just so simple and easy. But the learning curve of the complexity behind it is
To
like,
set it up, right? To set it up.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, I mean, I think AI is I think it's an interesting thing that's happening. Um,
Do you think it's sentient?
I don't. And the only reason I don't is because it's not energetic. So it doesn't have it doesn't, it feels created. But I know there's a lot of discussions around this, which is a very,
I don't even know that I have an opinion about it. I just felt like I should ask you.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because I was just recently thinking about AI more and more and kind of feeling into it. I don't have an answer. I don't know what's going to happen, but everything I do is like a feeling state. So I want to feel into everything. Like, what does it feel like to me? And AI doesn't feel real. It feels synthetic, um, with the disguise of being this advanced thing. But somebody created it. Like, it didn't come out of, an alien didn't come in and say, here, I'm going to create, like, humans created it. So it just doesn't feel godly, like source conscious, universally. It feels like, it just feels, it feels like a computer or like a robot. Like, it doesn't, I don't like the feel of it.
Okay. Well, that makes
Yeah.
sense. Since you mentioned aliens, I'm going to take this in a little different direction
Yeah.
because I do know that one of your most popular videos is one where you talked about the reptilians, I think. And so I'm going to ask you this question. You may not know the answer to it, or you may not have even thought about it. But do you think, first of all, I know because of your videos that you believe that there are consciousnesses outside of, there are aliens and entities outside of the human experience, right?
Hmm.
And so do you think that they are of the same collective consciousness that we are?
Yes, of
Me too. Me
course.
too.
I mean, if you think about, I mean, everything is everything,
Because there's nothing outside of it anyway.
right?
So it has to be a yes, but I was
Yes,
just curious to see what you really
of
thought.
of course. Like, so because we're in this human experience that has this dualistic way of being, right? Duality. It's part of the third dimension, right? So it's like there's good and bad, there's right and wrong. It feels good, it doesn't feel good. That's just part of this beautiful experience. But of course, because you've been to the beginning of everything, that doesn't exist, right? Like, it's
Right. That's
impossible
not
to,
real. Right.
no, it's impossible to even it doesn't even, it's not there. Um, and so when you know that, then you start grappling with both of those realities, which is like, okay, I'm in a third dimension and there is absolute right and wrong. Like, you cannot tell me it's right to abuse an animal or abuse a child, right? And so it's like there is that dualistic nature in us here, and everything is from that's that universal source of
Everything.
everything,
Everything.
unconditional bliss and peace.
Yes.
And so to really wrap your head around that is just like almost incomprehensible at
It
times.
is from a human
Yeah.
standpoint, it is. So I've heard a lot of people talk about thinking that we're going to have a mass event that will leave no question in every single human incarnated on this planet that aliens exist. And people are talking about it happening before the end of 2027. Do you have any feelings around that, or thoughts around that, or knowings around that?
Couple of things, like, so, I mean, lately I've just been, to me, just being in my everyday life as much as possible is really the greatest um the greatest thing we can give ourselves. I'm not anticipating or waiting for something to happen. um I feel like it's in the now. It's in every moment. It's in every breath. It's in every conversation. It's in every emotion. It's in every relationship. And I think it can be a disservice at times when we move into more of that future-based stuff, because it almost is a pacifier for what we're in right now. So it's like, oh, okay, then as soon as this happens, I'll be okay. So you know what I
Mm.
mean? It's like
I do know what you mean. Yeah.
it almost puts a band-aid on really being in presence, which is the hardest place for us to be and really
Yeah,
where the
for
biggest
sure.
growth. Um, and I've been around the block for long enough to understand in the spiritual community that this is what we do. We do this all the time. We predict things that are coming in a certain amount of time or certain amount of years. I don't know why we do that, but we do it, and it never actually happens. So,
They just keep on moving the
yeah.
timeline a little bit further
Or
away.
something else that's going to happen. We just kind of forget that we said in 2012 this was going to happen in 2021, 2020. Like we just kind of forget that these things we said were going to happen didn't happen, and now we're just going to focus on something. If you've been in the spiritual community, this is kind of what we do. So I tend to not put any weight on it
I think
anymore.
that's a good answer. I think that's a fair answer because it's that reminder to become present, which is one of the greatest things I think we've come here to remember. That's what we are. We are the state of being of eternity. It's not a time constraint. We are in an ever present, infinite moment. That's all that exists on the other side.
And how
And
do you
here,
feel it? Like how do you, what's the best way to actually kind of recognize or know that?
when you recognize that you're not spending all of your thought time in the past or in the future. We all have to be in the future. Like I've got a place I've got to go. I have to go grocery shopping. I'm going to have to do laundry. I'm going to have to meet this person next week. I have to prepare for this meeting. We have to be I'm going to go on a trip. We have to prepare for the future. But as much as we can, when we notice that we're not spending the majority of our time, especially in the past or in the future, then we are just accumulating these little joyful moments of the present. Everything is in flow. I think things flow more. And the more of that flow you feel, the more you'll recognize that you are not living in either of those, because the future is almost, you can't control it. You don't know what all is going to happen. Yes, you have to plan for certain things in it, but the past, you're not going to change anything. So there's no sense spending all your time thinking about that or what could have been or what should have been or what you wanted to be different because it's done. But I think you get in that present moment, you're in the flow. What do you think?
I think the same thing. I think, the reason why it's so challenging for us to be present is you have to be in what is, and that's very difficult for us. And so if you start becoming aware of how most of the time our well, it's not our natural state, but what we tend to do is we're always kind of one step ahead, which I get because presence is really, really difficult for us. Just being with right here, right now, which is absolute trust in life. You have to really trust in life that it's okay. Like everything is, your emotions are okay. You can feel everything and you will survive it. And you can be aware of all the different thoughts, and they can get really loud, and you will get to the next moment. Like, so the more we are like, yeah, like Marines almost, right? Like soldiers in present moment, the more we get comfortable with present moment, and the more we're comfortable with present moment, the more we realize that we're safe and free and like who we really are. So, again, I think that we are programmed to sort of be in the future. So I'm very cognizant of anything that is an additional look into the future or focus on the future. It's like that is detrimental to my peace in my life. I
I
can't.
think that's a really important message. I hope that people are listening to that and maybe taking that in and thinking about that a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, right? We know how difficult it is and the human and and being in this on this planet, you have to plan. You have to um we planned this podcast and but it's baby steps. It's not like black and white. People always argue with me. Well, that's easy for you to say. You don't have kids and you don't have this and you don't and it's like, no, like baby steps. Like tiny little baby steps, which is like, during your day, just notice how often you're in the future. That's it. And just start there. Like, wow. And then practice like, what does presence mean? Okay, so am I like right here, right now, we're just doing this, right? If I look over at my brother's dog, I'm like, oh yeah, he's coming in an hour. So I go into like while we're talking, I also go into the future, big deal. I'm aware of it, right? Okay, so what? I know that I have these things I have to do, but you can also bring yourself into presence. Like what's happening right now? Now, what's happening right now? One of the ways that I practice this, I started really practicing presence maybe 5 years ago, is I would say, I'm now walking to the bathroom. I'm now going to the shower. I like it. I would practice that. I had to practice. I'm now walking to my car. I'm now getting into my car. My hands are on the steering wheel. I'm now getting mad at this person. Like, I would like consciously, like neurotically show myself what I was doing to get myself in presence more. And it
So how
really
did
worked.
that work for you? What did it do?
It brought me into presence. And so the more that I brought awareness, conscious awareness to presence, like I'm now hungry, I'm now going to go eat, I'm now getting mad at myself, I'm now ignoring my mother's phone call, like everything I would do, I would bring as much presence as possible. Now there's a bazillion things that we're doing throughout the day. So it's obviously not possible to do it with everything. But as often as I could, I would say, okay, I'm now sitting here. I'm now getting ready for a podcast. I'm now plugging in this. I'm now, and then what ends up happening, the more you kind of commit to that awareness, and you may only do it for like 5 minutes during your day, then you forget for 6 hours and then you come back to it. But the more that you consciously sort of practice that, the more it becomes your natural state and you don't have to practice it. And then it's just mind blowing because you're just starting to become present. And I don't have a lot of stress or anxiety or worry. I really don't. And it's not because my life is necessarily like chill, but it's because I've been practicing presence where I don't, I don't I don't like I've practiced enough to not go into those states or if because anxiety is just stress and anxiety are just future, like you're thinking about a future. So if I the more I'm practice just presence, you know, the more at peace I am with whatever with my life.
That's beautiful. I love having these conversations so much because for everybody who's listening, you just gave people a very practical skill to develop. Doesn't cost them any money. It just is an awareness that they're going to try it. And then when they implement it, it either works and it serves them and they continue to do it, or it doesn't and they move on and they do something else. But being able to actually take an idea and extrapolate it and then implement it into your own life is so valuable.
Mhm.
Like, how's somebody else doing it?
Yeah, because it's
This
so hard
isn't
to
this is,
teach.
isn't natural to us anymore.
No, and it's such a bummer. I mean, again, we go back to like the conversation around how complicated things have to be in order for us to find simplicity. So presence is the simplest it's mind-blowingly beyond simple. It's just our natural state, right? So there's nothing you have to do to be present except that we have to do everything to get present.
Love that comment. That's so true.
Like we have to practice really hard all day, every day to find our most natural state, which is presence. So, it's like your mom, like I'm never going to be able to watch TV. It's like, no, you got to just start learning you got to go through those uncomfortable learning curves and then it becomes easy. But it's
Love it.
not easy right away. Like you
Gotta do the work.
you got to do the
Sorry.
work. Yeah.
Gotta
I
do
mean,
the
I really
work.
encourage people to practice that because it was life-changing. But again, you have to put in the time. You got to remind yourself.
Well, speaking of time, we've been talking for almost an hour.
Oh, wow.
I know, I went so fast. I would imagine that people who are watching, they want to find you, connect with you more. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the book that you wrote and where people can see you, work with you, etc.
Yes, I wrote a book called The Divine Design, which is a pretty complex book, but it's a simplified like uh, version of kind of how we got here and how the earth got here and what this whole thing is about, like a Cliff Notes version of what this whole experience is that we're doing here. It's called The Divine Design. I would recommend getting it in audio. Fascinating book. Downloaded. I downloaded it, and then you can find me. I do a weekly series on YouTube called Untangled every Tuesday at 9 a.m. I just talk about
Is
our
it live when you're
human.
doing it?
It's live. Yeah, it's
Oh,
live.
okay.
Yeah, every Tuesday, 9 a.m. California time, Untangled. I just talk about what we're navigating and I talk about my own experiences. And then I have a online community called the School of Remembrance, SOAR. And it's a beautiful, amazing global community of people that come together all day long, every day. There's a really powerful community chat that we have. We have a prayer circle. We do live events, challenges. And you can find that on my website, which is just lorieladd.com. And then I have all the normal social media stuff.
Wonderful. I'll put
Yeah.
everything in the show notes so people can connect with you. Lorie, this has been so much fun. I've loved so much this conversation, and I want to thank you from the bottom of my heart for what you are doing to wake up the collective. It is so needed right now.
Thank you. And thanks for reaching out to me. I love how we're all kind of turning on and coming online and connecting with each other and sharing what we know to be truth and to shake us up, wake us up, bring us into our hearts. Yeah.
Beautiful. And thank you everybody for watching.
Thanks, guys.